Okay, so I wanted to share the story about my really profound and indescribable experience that I had at Envision Festival, Costa Rica. I've talked about this experience with close friends and family. It's undescribable, I guess. I would say it would be kind of like an enlightenment experience mixed with a multidimensional, unexplainable experience. I've kept it to myself for a while because I was processing it. I didn't really understand what happened, so I'm going to just give you guys the story. I've been meaning to write an article about it, and I figured the best way was just to share through a video story, a video blog, or whatever. So it started with me wanting to go to Envision Festival, and I flew in from Canada. And when I arrived, I was waiting for the bus to be taken into the festival, and I met two amazing people. I'll leave their names out of it. And I made friends with them. We hit it off, and I didn't end up seeing the guy until the second day into the festival. And when I had seen him at night, I said, "Hey, so and so, how's your festival going? How are you?" And he looks at me dead serious, and he goes, and he was playing a flute. He was sitting there in the middle of kind of the traffic at night, playing the flute in the middle of Envision Festival in Costa Rica, which in itself is magical. It's on the beach, it's in nature. There's trees everywhere, so it's a really beautiful environment. And he has this flute that he's playing, and I said, "Hey man, like, how's your festival going?" And he looks at me dead serious, and he says, "The universe gifted me this flute. When I started playing it, I got taken to a cave with 9 beings. They started to share with me galactic knowledge." And I was like, oh my God, like, that's intense. Now, in my world, from the things that I've experienced, I've been to Egypt, I've lived in Sedona. If you've ever lived in Sedona, I'm seeking, so aliens and other dimensions and things like that for me it's not an uncommon thing. It doesn't kind of throw me off. So I was like, holy crap, man. I was like, what else? He said that the flute, some flutes are a communication device because these beings told him that they were here long before us and they don't want to just communicate with anybody. So this flute allowed them to have this communication where they could share knowledge. And I proceeded to ask him another few questions, and I could see in his eyes when I would ask him the question how he was processing what happened to him and then how to share it with me. So he was really trying to figure out this unbelievable experience that he had and share the knowledge that they shared. And he said that they were helping him get ready for more of a communication, whatever that was going to look like. They shared a little bit about their history, I guess, and some other things, and I thought it was really fascinating. So I was like, oh my goodness, man, well, that's amazing. Next time you go, see if you can bring a friend. I would love to go. I would love to have that experience. That sounds incredible. And so I went on my way, and I had a good night that night, and I just was thinking about the experience. So the next night I said to myself, I was like, okay, I want to have an experience with God or visitors, ETs, or other dimensions in a way that I know without a doubt that's what that was, that's what that experience was, because I could see that he had had that experience and it was really profound for him. And I was like, well, I'd like one of those. So I set that intention and I do a meditation. And I also, full disclosure, had a tiny amount of mushrooms and a tiny amount of MDMA, a very small amount that was there. And so some people listening to this story might be like, oh, he was, on whatever, so that's what happened. But it was less. They were both very, very small amounts. And so I took those, and I kind of expected that I was just going to go and dance and have a good night. But I set that intention, and I just kind of walked. I did a walking meditation, and I just imagined a higher communication. I imagined having a beautiful experience, and I just let it out. I stayed in focus, and I went on my way. And I see this girl sitting there face painting, and when I go to festivals, I like to have white paint on. I like to kind of give out the wizard vibe and do wizard work. And so I sat down and said, hey, would you mind painting my face? She's like, no, not at all. We'll do a trade. I was like, perfect. So I give her some of these, they have like these, I think they're cacao nuts or something like that. I give her some of those and she paints my face. I said, do you want like a cosmic blessing? And I just call it whatever when I go to Burning Man and festivals. I have a vibrational tuning fork that vibrates, and it's set to a frequency where it just puts you in a calm state. It's a vibrational tool. And so essentially what I tell people and what process I go through is along the lines of, okay, so we want to identify our reality of what we want to bring in, right? So for me in sports, it's pretty easy. You want to land a backflip. Okay, great. We'll visualize a backflip and what it feels like. But in life, it's a little bit more complicated. So maybe you're trying to bring in a partner. Maybe you're trying to bring in an ideal job. Maybe you want a house. Maybe whatever it is that you want. And so our affirmations are what we're talking about a lot of the time don't work because we don't put any force. We don't put any will. Or energy. So if we're in an electrical universe and we say, okay, I want this partner, or I want a house, or whatever, and we say, okay, I want the house, and we put like the universe goes, okay, and puts 002 electrical volts to the universe. Well, in his book, Scientific Affirmations, Yogananda talks about how we need to put will into it. We're not putting any will into what we're desiring, and that's why we're not getting it. So what I explain is like, okay, I want you to imagine, and this is kind of what I go through with people, I want you to imagine, your limitless reality. If you had anything you could imagine, if I were a genie, if you were a god on this planet, if you had everything you could possibly imagine, what does that look like? And so they think for a bit, and they get into it, and then they kind of imagine it, they get clear, and I'm like, okay, once you're clear, you can imagine saying an affirmation, but you could also think about the example of, a mother, and she gets in an accident or something, and her child is pinned under the car, and the car is on fire, and the child is screaming. The mother's not going to think about how heavy that car is, or anything around that, or if she can lift it, or if she's gone to the gym lately. She's going to grab the car, truck, or whatever, and with every ounce, muscle, fiber, atom of her being, is just going to pull. She'll put her feet through the ground like the Incredible Hulk to get that vehicle off their son and daughter, and there's stories of people doing that, doing miraculous things. And so if you took that amount of willpower into your ideal life, into your infinite life, into your vision, whatever it is, whether you want a partner or a new career or to travel the world or whatever the case, if you took that amount of will rather than the traditional, dear spirit, my intention is to have an ideal partner, and you register 0.2 volts, but you take that will of like that lifting the car, and you're like, my life, I am abundant and traveling the world and have my ideal job, and you feel it into every cell and every muscle and every bone of your being. And that's the idea. So that's kind of the spiel that I give people. And once they connect to that, I say, okay, this is great. Once you have that idea of the thing that you really want to attract in, I'm going to go and I have the tuning fork, and I use the tuning fork, and I go to the top of the head, the third eye, and I kind of go around the body, and I give some energetic support, whatever that is, just my good vibes and everything that I can, whether you want to call it chi or Reiki or, prana, I don't care what you call it. It's just I'll give some support, but it's them. They have to do it with themselves. They have to connect to whatever the frequency of their reality is, and the tuning fork and me being there is just a support system. So she does it, and I do the tuning fork. I go along the body. I do what I do, top of the head, the third eye, using the tuning fork going through. And then when I'm done, she kind of goes into a meditative position. And normally when I do it, it takes, I'd say 30 seconds to a couple of minutes for people to pop out, because they're able to go deep, and the tuning fork is a really great tool for that. And so she goes into a meditative state, and it's like, okay, I can go into a meditative state. So I start to meditate, and the second I close my eyes, I instantly start to go into an extremely deep meditation, just very, very deep, very, very quickly. And after a few minutes, I have to pop out to see if she's waiting for me to come out. And so she's not waiting, so I go back into it, and again, really, really, really deep, and I have to pull myself out to see if she's just waiting for me, and I'm stuck in the meditative state. And this happens a few times for about 10 minutes. I'm like, okay, whatever this is a deep meditation, so maybe I'll just hold her hands And that way, if she's waiting for me, she can give me like a little squeeze of the hand, and I'll come out of the state and we'll have a chat about the experience and give thanks to each other and, you know, make friends and all that kind of fun stuff. So I hold her hands gently, and we're face to face, you know, holding hands in a meditative state. And the second that I held her hands and just allowed myself to go into the meditation, I got launched into the deepest meditation I've ever had in my life, and I have meditated a lot. I spent 4 months in koala habitat in Australia, reading, writing, meditating all the time. You know, I meditated with monks in Nepal. I meditated consistently, you know, for over an hour a day for probably about a year. You know, so I've meditated a lot, but this has never happened before. This was, you know, I've had glimpses of that. I had an experience, you know, when I was younger, where I popped, you know, it was, you know, it's a different experience, but I've had glimpses of that. But this was very different, where I was just launched. And I would say like 10, 15 minutes goes by, and I'm like so launched into this oneness state. I was in the oneness. Some they say like non-local mind, things like that. But I was definitely in it, and it was profound. And so as I'm in this state, I feel a little bit of a squeeze on my left hand, and so I come to open my eyes. I come to pop out of the state. And so as I open my eyes, I can hear footsteps walking up beside us, and then we're sitting like this, and right to the side, you know, it'll be a side view, a flash happens. And flash happens, and I was like, ooh, somebody took a Polaroid. That's cool. Like, this is going to be a cool photo to have. And over my left shoulder, the Polaroid drops in, and I'm sitting there, and I'm kind of like, this oneness consciousness is still super empowering, encompassing. I'm kind of like not in my mind as Matt, you know, I'm in this like kind of oneness mind, experiencing a little bit of a different consciousness. So I'm looking at the picture, and it's all white, like a Polaroid that just got taken. It's all white. Oh no! Oh, right in the middle of my story. It's a little bit windy. Okay, geez, where was I? I was right in the middle of it. Okay. So the picture happens, and it's a flash, and it gets dropped over my right shoulder, and it's a Polaroid. It's like one of those, you take a Polaroid and it's all white, and it takes a second to develop. So I'm watching it develop, and this is where it gets super gnarly. I'm watching the picture develop, and I'm in this like more this stronger consciousness force, or whatever it is. The picture's developing, slowly coming up, and I start to notice some things take shape. Notice there's a person in the photo. It started to come out and out and out. Then my mind goes, what the F? What the F? And this image starts to take shape, and what I see is Thoth, or some people say Thoth. I don't know how you pronounce it. I usually say Thoth. I'm not sure. But it's Thoth as a being, like this 8 to 10 foot being who is incredibly jacked, like super strong. And if you don't know who that is, Google him. And he's got the bird head, and it looks like it's in Egypt. And there's I can see the outline of one stone behind him, one really huge stone. And it's in a dark room. It looks like a basement somewhere in Egypt, or a pyramid or something like that. And then there's a person on a chair. There's a girl on a chair. And he has, I swear to God, has a pen. And so the pen is on the girl's third eye, and it's exactly what I look like when I'm whacking the tuning fork and I am on people's third eyes. And so, but he's this being. So I'm like, what the F? What the F? And my mind just goes nuts, but this consciousness force is so much stronger. And so it goes, okay, look, the picture is right on her lap, right there, right now, but you can go back into this meditative space that's really unique, and then when you pop out of it, you can talk to this girl and get to the bottom of what the heck is going on. So like, okay, I can deal with that. So I go back into the meditation. The second I close my eyes again, I'm launched, into the deepest meditation I've ever had in my life, again, into this like oneness mind experience, really, really deep, strong, and profound. Probably 10-15 minutes goes by, I'm guessing, and then I feel the squeeze of my hand again, and so I open my eyes. When I open my eyes, I'm kind of stuck in like a yogi mind, like it's not my consciousness, like, alert, like general consciousness. It's like this oneness mind where, my eyes are open, but I'm still in this there's no thoughts coming in. It's this, look like if you ever see a yogi meditating, I was in Nepal and saw some sadhus and stuff, and saw some real ones and kind of saw that state, their eyes open. That's kind of what it was like. And so when she opens her eyes, she looks at me and I'm looking right at her, kind of stuck in this consciousness mind, but my eyes are open. And so she kind of gives me this look, and she has like a little smile, and then like a like kind of like a what smile, and then more of like, I don't know if it was like a look of concern. I think she might have looked down and see the photo, I don't know, but it was like it changed, and then she started to pack up her stuff. So she starts to pack up her stuff, right? But I'm still stuck in this meditative state. I'm seeing her pack up her stuff, but I'm kind of looking straight. And I'm trying to kind of get back to my mind here, trying to get back to my body. And she's got quite a bit of stuff, packs it up and starts walking away. And I'm like, oh my God, like this girl cannot walk away right now. Like I got to figure out what the heck is going on. So like coming back to my body, I get into my body, and she's taking a couple steps away, and I just say, please wait. And she is walking away. So I'm processing for a second, and I'm like, I gotta go after her. I'm thinking like, if I go after her, like she's trying to run away, if I go after her, maybe she'll be freaked out or something. I don't know. But I was like, I gotta go after her. I gotta figure out what's going on. I can't just let her walk away. So I go to get up. I take a step. My entire right leg is dead. Can't feel it. I take 2 steps. It's numb, and I have to sit down. So I sit down, legs outstretched, and I start rubbing my leg. And I'm just like, what the F is going on? Like, this is messed up. And just kind of processing that. And about 30 seconds later, she comes down the path at a very brisk pace, just coming down the pathway, right towards me, walks right up to me, doesn't look me in the eyes, and looks all around me, looks like around and goes, where's the photo? Where's the photo? And I said, I don't have it. She's like, where's the photo? And I was like, I promise I don't have it. Please look at me. She's like, no, where's the photo? And she's like, empty your pockets. So I start emptying the pockets. I said, I'll do anything you ask. I promise I don't have the photo. What did you see? She's like, empty your other pocket. I empty my other pocket. I didn't have the photo. I thought she had it. And so she's like, lift up. I lift up my butt, so, underneath my butt, that I don't have it. And I was just like, I promise I don't have it. What did you see? Then she finally looks at me really quick and then walks away, and just walks away. And so I don't know what she saw in the photo. I don't know if it was the same thing. I don't know if it was different, but whatever she saw, it freaked her out. It freaked me out. And I've seen weird stuff in my life. I've been to states of meditation where it kind of breaks reality. I've seen, orbs and stars that are pulsing that don't make any sense. I've had experiences in my life where, regular traditional reality, if you're not out there looking for it or experiencing it, it's like, whoa, it's kind of like a crack in the matrix. It's a bit of an unbelievable experience for most people, but I've had a lot of those. And even with having those, this was like a whole nother level. So I was like, what the heck? So whatever the picture was freaked her out, and she just pieced out, and I freaked her out, probably stuck in yogi mind and looking at maybe it's Thoth, or maybe she saw something different. I don't know. Either way, she is now gone, and I'm sitting there thinking like, what the heck? And so I sit there for a second, and then my attention kind of goes to the right, and I'm like 3 steps away from what I consider like the Bodhisattva tree, like the tree where Buddha had his awakening, because the roots are so perfect for a seat. And instantly I'm like, oh my God. I was like, probably not the tree where he woke up in, but I was like, that's like an awakening tree. Like, that thing is going to be perfect. I'm supposed to go sit and meditate there. So I just stand up. I take 3 steps. I sit, and the roots are holding my hips perfect. This is as perfect as I can imagine. I get into a meditative position, and honestly, I have not been meditating that much up until this point, and recently anyways. And so when you don't do that, your legs aren't as flexible, so it's a bit harder on the body. And so I get into a meditative posture. The tree is supporting my back, the roots are supporting my hips, and then I proceed to go into the deepest state of meditation by far for the next 6 hours. Camera, it's getting windy. So 6, I don't know, I thought my hand was going to stop the wind, not really. For 6 hours. Actually, here we go. All right, sorry about that. Okay, so then I'm stuck in this oneness mind, but this is good. I want to go in. So I took my consciousnness, and a lot of things happened in this meditation. It was like an ayahuasca experience. I took like my awareness and I dove deep. Like they say, like, go into meditation, go in. Well, this time was different. I was able to kind of like turn around and dive in, like boom, like a superhero, just into my own consciousness and space. And it kind of like started to fractal out, and kind of like any ayahuasca, or if you have an unbelievable experience, like in a meditation where you pop out and everything is oneness, you're in non-local mind. It's a bit unexplainable. I can't really explain what happened because I was writing about it, and I learned some things. Like I was in a space too, like when this was in the middle of the last night of Envision Festival, and I'm just stuck there. So I could hear when people were around me, and even when people were talking about me, I could hear them, no problem. But I could also be aware of the music simultaneously on each of the stages. I could kind of go through continents. I could be blasting into whatever realm of consciousness that was, like deeply, diving deep into it. But it was more like allowing what was going to happen. It was like I was being taken for an experience from a greater force. It's not that, because your mind is so small, your consciousness is so small, but like the mountains and the trees and the birds and the sun and all of existence, time, whatever, like just deep questions. It's a greater mind, it's a greater experience. So I just allowed that energy to come in, and I just moved. I was just out of the way. I was just moved, and so you don't come in with my mind of like, oh, what's this, what's that. It's so much greater. You're not going to figure it out anyway, so you just kind of enjoy the ride. So I was like, my body didn't even, I wasn't even like, I knew I had a body, but I wasn't concerned with that. I never, usually when you meditate, your leg might get sore, or you're trying to go deep, like none of that. It was just launched. And, I was in that consciousness, and the body was just something that I had. I thought at one moment, I was like, oh, this is it. Like, I'm just going to stay here and meditate with this tree, like for the rest of my life. Like, this is it. I actually thought that was going to happen. Like, that was it. And, I sat there for a little bit, and had a bunch of other really just interesting downloads and experiences and processes in that space. So eventually, this is going, it starts at midnight, 1 a.m., 2 a.m., 3 a.m., 4 a.m., 5 a.m., still in it. And then eventually around 5:30, I started to become aware of my body. My leg got really sore all of a sudden. So I'm in this consciousness, and then all of a sudden, I started to come down into the body, into my leg. And my legs was really sore because I was in the same position forever. And I was like, legs. So I was like, okay, maybe I'm supposed to come out of this. So it takes me about a half an hour to kind of work back out of that space into my body. And then luckily there was a sacred fire really close. So I was like, okay, I can go over to the sacred fire, because I didn't want to come out of that experience. I wanted to stay in that. It's like this knowingness, this comfort, this love, this understanding, this profound, beautiful space that's in you. It's in you. It's in everybody. So I wanted to stay there. I didn't want to leave. It was peaceful in there. But I did, because my body was hurt, and I was there all night. And so I walk over to the sacred fire. I see a friend. Thankfully, I kind of share with her the experience of what happened. That was the first one I shared it with. And, I began to process it. As I began to process it and share this story with a few people, because I didn't want to really share the story. I talk about a lot of wild things in my podcast, but I didn't want to share the story. I don't know why, but I was resistant to it anyways. But the fascinating thing, there's a couple fascinating things. Number one, I just got back from Egypt in October or September with Nassim Haramein, the Resonance Science Foundation. We have, futuristic technology on my body in the King's Chamber. If you look at the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, which somebody said, hey, you got to re-listen to that. It talks about the experience that I had in Egypt for an activation. Is exactly what I went through in Egypt. I had, this arc crystal on my third eye with arc crystals behind me, which created an energetic pulse with, super advanced science. And I'm sitting in the King's Chamber like that with Nassim going Om and the whole group doing Oms and activating the pyramid, activating the body. I don't know if something happened there, but I thought about that. That makes sense. Maybe something happened there. But then I'm reading, I just went through the life and teaching of the Masters of the Far East, and I need to find the actual examples, but they go through these different examples of how they can photograph stuff that's multidimensional. They can photograph things that you shouldn't be able to photograph. So that series of books, I recognize that about book 3, that this is an initiation when I'm reading these books. It's like autobiography of a yogi on steroids. Within the first 30 pages, people are disappearing and reappearing, bilocating. And it's written by Barrett T. Spalding, who's a scientific researcher who went to India to study yogis and realized some of these yogis could do unbelievable things like heal themselves, heal people, whatever magic can go around with that level of consciousness, and followed them around for 12 years or something and wrote books about what he had learned from them and the stories and things like that. So it's really wild. But, he says, time isn't what you think it is. We can photograph any period of time that we want and have photographic evidence. So then I remember multiple times in those books, it references this might be a wild concept for you, but we can photograph it. I thought, I remembered that. So that was interesting. So, on the devil's advocate side, maybe I was just in a deep meditation and somebody has a Polaroid camera where you can have a preset photo and, and then the photo will come up whatever they've preset the settings. That's possible. Lots of, feel free to tell me what you think happened. But the interesting thing is I'm the one going through my life, through my own experiences. Your reality is always a reflection of your consciousness. I asked for this. I asked. And I went into a meditation. I was like, please, show me. And so then I received it. I received this experience that I can't explain and that I felt. That even, don't worry about the photo. That was a wild thing in addition to, that's something that shouldn't really happen. That's the thing that I wanted that was this is undescribable. There's no way you're wrapping your head around that. It's true. I haven't since. I still don't know what the heck. But that meditation, that consciousness that I felt, that oneness, I don't even know the word for it, that experience, the non-local mind, whatever, there's no words. That feeling, that energy, that consciousness was beyond anything I've ever experienced, and really was profound and still with me. So that's the experience that I had, and it was super wild. It was unbelievable. And then I think, what is the point? Why is that? How is that useful? And so I imagine a seeker, hearing this story and they hear about the experience, and I'm just noticing an eagle or a big crow coming in, super beautiful. How is this experience useful? And so I'll just explain it from my point of view. When I started on this path, which was forever, I just loved martial arts and I wanted to see what humans were capable of, and meditated as a kid and studied visualization, enlightenment. I wanted to be enlightened, so I meditated with monks in Nepal, and I've just traveled the world trying to find these answers. And all the books and all the teachings say the answer is within, go within, so you don't need to go travel anywhere or do anything. But over a long period of time, I've been doing the practices. I've been doing, meditation, but ultimately my heart has been asking. I've been asking to, be of service. I've been asking for understanding. What's happening here? Who am I? What's the point of life? How can I help people? How can I be a better person? How can I understand myself? How can I let go of things that don't serve me? How can I serve other people? That's always been something with me, but I've actively pursued that through reading, through traveling, through doing seminars, through doing the practices, through traveling the world and doing whatever I can. And this comes back to like a checkpoint, kind of saying, hey, you asked for this, here it is, you're on the path. And if you ever read the book Autobiography of a Yogi, it's a very beautiful book, and it's about Yogananda, who from a very young age knows he wants to be a yogi. And the book is like normal stuff most of the time. He's a kid, he goes through being a kid, he goes through his parents telling him not to be a yogi, he goes through university, things like that. He has struggles, but there's sections of the book where he has an unexplainable experience, and he writes about them. There's his master talks about this palace materializing in the Himalayas out of nowhere, and going through all these different experiences, and how his master found him through past lives. It's pretty bonkers stuff. I was like, oh my goodness, that's wild. But then it goes back to Yogananda being human and struggling and bringing these teachings to America, and how challenging that was for him. And then having some things happen within, the self-realization school that were challenging, and all this kind of stuff, and people doing what people do, and Yogananda facing real challenges, real life stuff, but continuing on the path. And then every now and then he would have this multi-dimensional, unexplainable experience, and that would be for him to help with this understanding of him walking the path, knowing he wasn't doing it alone. And so for me, I can say that maybe it was a checkpoint for me, saying, hey, you're not alone. Here's a checkpoint for you. And so all I would offer in that, and listening to this experience, if you made it to this far, is that just to find that space for yourself, to just connect to who you are, to put that mirror inside, and then think about how you can serve and help people. And when you do that, the universe is always on your side. But the thing is, you've got to do the work first. You have to move first. You have to do these things. You have to have faith. And that's where the faith comes from, is you acting. You're like, I don't know how this is going to happen, but I'm going to keep doing these things that I feel in my heart and my soul are right, that are aligned with who I am, and that can maybe help people. But the first part of helping anybody or serving humanity is figuring out who you are, understanding and going through all the pain and suffering you might have, and clearing that, and forgiving yourself and forgiving others and things like that. And then pursuing the things that make you happy, and building a beautiful life for yourself. And then you can share that with other people. And if you're on the spiritual path, keep, doing your practices, whatever that is for you. It could be yoga, it could be art, it could be just going into nature. You don't really have to do anything. You just have to be an honest seeker. And there's a quote, Matthew 7:7, that was given to me when I was explaining this message to one of my mentors, David Lombard Senepas from the Star Teachings. He's a native elder, and they have a whole different, philosophy, somebody I deeply respect. And I forget exactly what it is. You can look it up. I'll put it in the links, but it's, knock in the door will be answered, that one. I should know it. Knocking, it'll be answered, like asking it. I don't know. Just basically ask and seek. Seek and ye shall find kind of deal. And I can say that for me, I've been seeking, and I'm continuing to seek truth. I'm continuing to seek knowledge. I'm continuing to seek peace within myself every day. And I struggle like every day with like being human, with figuring out how to do all this stuff that goes with being human. But while I do that, being kind, to be thoughtful, to be present, to do the things that make sure I'm honoring my body and my life experience, to listen to my gut when I have gut feelings and gut knowings, and to do those things. So I think I'll leave the video with that, because I kind of got lost on a tangent, but I wanted to kind of make it practical, because I don't know what that experience means. Maybe it was just a checkpoint, like a little universal wink. I did ask for it, but it's not about those winks. It's not about, they talk about in Zen, it's not about this experience that's like so amazing, and you just know it's about this. It's about the daily peacefulness. It's about the daily action. It's about the daily compassion. It's about you doing it. Do it, over and over, maybe for years, and then the universe will give you a wink. When it's like, no, you're doing it. But the bottom line is, if you're walking that way anyways, you're going to be living a more fulfilled life. So the wink is like a bonus. A lot of seekers, I find, myself included, have continuously wanted this astral projection, out-of-body experience, talking to an ET or a multidimensional being right here, channeling Thoth, which I know somebody who does that. And do I know it's Thoth or not Thoth? I don't know. I don't know. When somebody channels anything, who knows what that is? But how does it affect the quality of your life? How does it affect the quality of your experience? Because you're the only one who affects your experience, and I'm the only one that can affect my experience. And so what I know is that when I listen to myself and I go in and I do the best I can to live in peace and harmony and to be aware of what's going on and honestly want to help and honestly want to grow and ask spirit, ask God, ask nature, like, please give me guidance. Please help me with what I need to know now. Please guide me. Please show me what I got to do. It's each and every day. It's like it can be a struggle in a way, but it becomes a beautiful life experience. And I can say, going to Costa Rica, studying with David Lombard in Maine, going to Egypt and being in the Great Pyramid, snowboarding in the Alps, snowboarding across the world in Canada and New Zealand, traveling to maybe 25, 30 countries. It's been a beautiful life experience. I've had a beautiful life experience. And that is the important piece. That's the meat and potatoes. And I'm wanting to help. I'm wanting to do more. I'm wanting to express myself as a human. I'm wanting to understand myself. I'm wanting to grow in my consciousness, in my life experience. And that experience that I had is just like this interesting cherry on top. It's just like a conversation piece. Like when I went to Mount Everest, I almost died on Mount Everest. It's a conversation piece. It's cool in a way. It wasn't cool at the time, but I got to go and I had a life experience. And so that's it. It's just like a cherry on top. It's not about that, because the daily life, like this, is magic. The life is magic. Being present with your fellow man and woman is magic. Being present with the animals is magic. Being present with children is magic. Going in, doing something you love is magic. So the magic is here now. It's not to be, don't try to go to like a different space to find magic. You don't go into meditation to find this magical space. You're in the magical space. You're in the space you're trying to find. It's here and now. And that's it. That's the point I'd like to make. So there's a story. I hope some of that might have been useful and helpful. Wishing you all the love, peace, joy, harmony, success in your life. And yeah, that's it.